Hello, everyone. It's Dr. Rochel Marie Lawson, the Queen of Feeling Fabulous, and I want to welcome you to this episode of the Blissful Living Podcast. I have a phenomenal guest today, and it's going to be a fabulous show. And as you know, I always like to say, if you love the show, you like the show, please subscribe and share the show with everyone you love and care about. Our topic today is healing addiction behind achievement and finding true bliss. And so, before we even get started, I want you to find a place to sit, gather your notepad, your favorite pen or pencil, your favorite beverage. Tell your family to give you a few moments, light an incense, a candle, whatever it is you need to get into your vibe while we have this beautiful discussion with my guest today, who is Craig Maltese. And while you're doing that, let me take care of business. I want to thank our sponsors, Blissful Living for You at Blissful Living, the number 4, the letter U.com. If you're really ready and wanting to elevate and transform your life via your wellness, wisdom, and wealth, so that you can step in and live the rest of your life like it was truly meant to be, then you want to check out Blissful Living for You. You want to go there, take their dosha quiz, and check out all the available resources, informations, opportunities that they have there to help you elevate your life so that you can truly have wellness, wisdom, and wealth. Again, that's Blissful Living for You at Blissful Living, the number 4, the letter U.com. The next sponsor I want to thank is All Day Cable Inc. All Day Cable Inc. is a telecommunications installation company located in the heart of Silicon Valley. They've been in business for 35 years, and they service small, medium, and very large corporations, as well as the transportation industry with the installation of network distribution, meaning your voice, your data, your fiber optic cabling, your network router access points, everything you need so that you can communicate efficiently, effectively, and make the right connection the first time when you're reaching out to your customer or your potential customer. If you're looking for a company that's been through it all and is still thriving and surviving, name one of the premier telecommunications installation companies in the United States, then you want to check out All Day Cable Inc. at alldaycableinc.com. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about my guest, Craig Maltese. His goes by Sheffy, which is super cute. He is a veteran fitness professional with over 25 years of experience, with 45,000 plus client sessions and leadership roles at elite clubs, including Gold's Gym in Venice, which, you know, if you're from the Cali area, it's Muscle Beach City down there, Equinox in New York, and La Pestre. His memoir, A Life Measured in Sessions, chronicles his journey from perfection and burnout to purpose and self-acceptance, now being developed as a scripted television series. And so, again, we're talking about healing addiction behind achievement and finding true bliss. Welcome to the show, Craig. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a blessing to have you here. I love I'm a workout type of chick. I've been doing it for a very long time, probably 4, 5+ decades. And absolutely love going to the gym and being in that vibe and just really feeling good, that I'm doing something good for my body, which will give me longevity in the future. But what I want to ask you first is with regards to emotional recovery and self-compassion, how real is strength when it comes from vulnerability?
Well, I'm glad you brought up the phrase self-compassion because I didn't really have that as a youngster. And when you don't have it for yourself, it's hard to have it for other people. And I think that really created a lot of blocks for me in relationships, in being able to understand myself, in all kinds of situations, whether it be at work, whether it be personal, professional. I didn't really have a strong sense of self, and I wasn't very forgiving of myself. And so it made it difficult for me to work through things or even acknowledge challenges and obstacles because I just didn't have my hands near tools to be able to address them. And the term vulnerability is really interesting. It's taken so many forms over the years. Um, and I think the vulnerability aspect for me was just kind of a surrender, just kind
Mm,
of what am I holding on to? What am I protecting? And in the book and in the TV show, I mean, there's terribly embarrassing moments of humiliation and things that I just was holding on to. That once I just let it go, I just felt kind of unfettered, and you stay in that state of, oh my God, I feel scared for very little, and then it becomes kind of empowering and gives me a little bit of fuel to move forward past it.
I love that. I just love the whole vulnerability thing. And I want to dive a little bit deeper into that because I know for a lot of people, including myself, being vulnerable is actually a very scary thing. What would you say to someone that is afraid to step into acknowledging their vulnerability? Because first, I think you have to actually acknowledge you have it within you before you can even begin to transform it into something beautiful. So, what would you say to that person that's afraid to actually acknowledge their own vulnerability?
I think you said the key word is acknowledging it. It can exist in all of us, and I think a lot of us have it and don't acknowledge it, and you're not aware of it. So what I would say is, from my own experiences, to get away from the word sorry, get away from apologizing, and get more into a place of awareness and say, hey, you know what? I could have done that better. I could have been better. And that pocket, what I would characterize as vulnerability, where you're actually really putting yourself in it. You're not just trying to get past it by saying, I'm sorry, can we get past this and go to dinner? You know what? I could have done that better. And I will be in this place of vulnerability until I do it better. Right. So that would be one thing that I have noticed in my own behaviors. And the reflex is to say sorry and just get past it, but you don't address it. You don't really sit in that vulnerable place where you're accessible emotionally to yourself and those around you. And then once you kind of put it out there and say, I could have done that better, I should have been better, the next thing is, what can I do to be better the next time? And so the longer you stay in that, I think the more comfortable you get, kind of opening up your and then moving forward from it, not in a very quick way without really understanding it, but in a way of, hey, maybe I can be a little bit more open for a little bit longer the next time.
I love it. I want to extrapolate more on that, but we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back to the Blissful Living Podcast, where we're right now talking with Craig Sheffy, Maltese, and we're discussing vulnerability. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Hello, welcome back to the Blissful Living Podcast. It's Dr. Rochel Marie Lawson, the Queen of Feeling Fabulous, and I'm having this great conversation with Sheffy about, aka Craig Maltese, about vulnerability. I just want to touch on that sword just a little bit about vulnerability. Why, first of all, where does vulnerability come from? And why do you think people are even afraid to recognize that they have vulnerability within them?
Because I think people correlate vulnerability with weakness, and they're afraid of rejection, right? So I think those are the two prongs. Coming up in the fitness world the way I did, it was all about building up your exterior. And unfortunately, the more people worked on their exterior, the less their interior grew and developed. And in my experience in gyms over the last 25 years, again, over 45,000 sessions with men, women of all age groups and demographics and backgrounds, those that was one of the constants. It's when you're working on your outer self, you're kind of neglecting your inner self, and you don't realize it, but it's very difficult to do both. And I think the more you are in an environment where I was in, where sharing your feelings and your emotions and opening up wasn't encouraged, it was more about optics. Look at me. Here's how I want to be perceived. And then when you
Mhm.
juxtapose those two things together, who wants to hear a big muscular guy say, "Hey, I'm a little scared of that. I don't know what's going on over here. I don't know how you feel about me." It goes against everything that they're trying to do in the gym. So one of the lines in the book is the gym is an opiate of hope. And I think that people go into a gym and they want a certain level of development and growth, but I think unfortunately and still to this day it just promotes outer growth, and I think it stunts inner growth and vulnerability, sensibilities and sensitivities, uh, right along with that.
I love, oh wow, it's beautiful. Thank you for sharing because I love that. I think for me personally, when it comes to vulnerability, particularly in the past, and like I said, I go to the gym. That's my outlet, my space where I'm creative. I'm in my zone. It could be 100,000 people in the gym, and I won't even see any of them because I'm in my own zone. But when it comes to vulnerability, I think you said people are afraid. You're afraid to make a mistake. You're afraid to be seen how you truly are. You guys, you big muscle dudes are like, oh, look at that dude. His body is rocking. But you might have the personality of just a baby kitty cat. But you don't ever want to expose that because it's contradicting what people see. So you walk around, and ladies do it too, walk around like we badasses. And really what's happening inside is we're suffering because we're afraid to come out of our own shell and be vulnerable because we don't want people to judge us based on what they see and not based on how we really are. So I'm loving this conversation because I think there's a lot of people in the world. Some of our leaders today, are afraid to be vulnerable and really be upfront with not the world, but their own internal dialogue that tells them they should do this, that, or the other when they really need to just let all of that go. My next question for you is with regards to healing the high achievers addiction. Why is success without self-love always a pathway to emptiness?
Because I don't think it leads to you actually believing in your success, in yourself. Uh, if you have success and you're missing an element of self-love and self-acceptance, it's hard to connect the success to yourself, right? Oh, it happened because of this and because of that, and because um the self-love thing is it's a big component in um certainly in my world, in the gym world, of separating ego from self-love to self-acceptance. uh the self-love thing, and look, and I've dealt with self-loathing most of my life, and I would say still to this day. I deal with it on a daily basis, and I try to cover it by being in the gym and doing something that gave me a temporary sense of self-confidence and self-acceptance. So whatever successes I did have, I had a hard time connecting to, and had a
Mhm.
hard time believing I was worthy of it because I didn't love myself. So who else would want to bestow love or success on me? So I think that in a nutshell is why there's a disconnect with those two things.
Again, wonderful words and so transformative because I think a lot of people that are super successful continue to strive to be successful. For instance, uh, they may be successful, I'm going to say a successful athlete, but they don't see themselves as successes. They just see them as doing something. Then they go to do something else and they're a super successful business person. But again, they don't see themselves as success. They just see it as another step up on a ladder that they have no idea where they're going. And I too can say that, I've had a lot of successes and over my life and things that I've done. But on my journey, there were times that I didn't see, no matter how much success, I got that straight A report card when I was a kid. I didn't see that as a success. I didn't even think about it. It was the next thing was, okay, I'm going to do this. You know what I mean? And then that was a success. And then I didn't sit with the successes to acknowledge that I'm good enough where I am and who I am. I just kept striving to be more and more and more, not necessarily successful, but to do more things, to seek outside approval and acceptance, when really what I needed was to accept myself internally so that would resonate out in the world. And I think that's kind of what you said as well. It's like, it does become an addiction. I had someone even tell me, "Oh, you were super successful with that," and I had to take it back because I was like, "Oh, yeah, I guess I was," but I didn't see it like that. It was just something I did, and it's something I do.
Right.
And
That's, yeah. Well said. Yeah. Well
yeah,
said.
and I think sometimes this stuff comes from our childhood, not to belittle or berate any of our parents, but sometimes I think it's, sometimes when we're kids growing up, you learn how to first tie your shoe and then you tie the second shoe and you don't do it as well. Somebody says, "Oh, you could have did better." You know what I mean? Even though you were super, and those continual type of things is what I think feeds that fuel of, no matter what I do, no matter how successful I am, I could always do better. So you're always looking to do better with the next thing, the next opportunity, but what you're saying is we just need to sit back and embrace what we're doing and recognize that what we're doing is something really good and valuable, and sit with that for just a few moments. And over time, it will potentiate and become something very, very positive and enlightening. We got to take another break real quick. We'll be right back to the Blissful Living Podcast. Stay tuned. In just a few moments, we'll be right back. Okay, we are back to the Blissful Living Podcast. I'm talking with Craig Sheffy Maltese. And I want to ask you this, Craig. I'm just loving this conversation because I think between you and I, really you're opening up and being very vulnerable. We're helping a lot of people. We may not even know we're helping them, or you may not even know your words are changing their lives, but it's going to make people pause and think about how they view their lives and achievement and things of that nature. So now with regards to the mind-body alignment, what has the decades in fitness taught you about the emotional and spiritual wellness of one's own self?
I'll use an analogy that I picked up somewhere along the way, and bear with me here as I frame this because it's going to start out a little weird. But you can't season frozen meat, right? So the mind body thing, it's, to me, the exercise and movement helps us to be more receptive to the other things in our lives. And I think that when you don't have a movement based program or lifestyle, it 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 blocks you physically, emotionally, mentally from accepting things. I can't tell you how many times I was training people and they would cry on a machine or break down or because they were holding in so many emotions. And as soon as they began to exercise, they would come out. So there is a
Mm.
direct correlation between, and I'll use the word again, you used it this whole talk, vulnerability, between movement, loosening up, becoming a little bit vulnerable, becoming a little bit sponge like, and then words that never went through kind of are coming through. Interactions are coming through. Advice is coming through. And so it helps to soften up that meat, soften up that receptacle so that things can be absorbed. And in my experience, when someone has a program, whether it's walking, whether it's yoga, whether it's bicycling, whatever it may be, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And if you don't change your movement, it's very hard to see things around you and to be receptive. I've never once ever gone to a gym for a workout or done any kind of workout and come back the same way. It's
Right.
it you just I call it the washing machine effect. I'm not a expert exerciser when it comes to me. I just do whatever I feel will help me. And as I've gotten older, I've changed the way I worked out. But I do know that if I have a bad pattern going in my head, and I can see myself stiffening up and hardening and being rigid, it'll stay until there's some kind of movement that breaks the pattern. So that's my experience with mind, body, and how those two connect, and how they work to and against each other, or for and against each other.
I love it. I love how you tie the physical aspect and working out, where somebody, might be working out and then all of a sudden there's a release. And a lot of times that has to do with the endorphins. A lot of stuff we have is trapped inside of us and it gets locked. We push it down and we don't even realize it's there, right? But in the process of movement, basically with the holistic principles that I practice and have done for years, when in the process of movement, sometimes that which is deep within us gets moved, it gets shifted. And someone will experience a crying, they will cry or get tearful, and they some oftentimes don't even know why, but it's something that's deep inside that they've been holding on to, that they've forgotten, and it may have become dormant, that actually gets released and allows them to have that transformative experience, where they're able to move forward. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. It's one of the reasons why, they say exercise is a key to longevity, not just physical longevity, but mental, emotional, and spiritual longevity as well. And so, beautiful conversation we're having here. I've got to take one more quick break, but we'll be right back to the Blissful Living Podcast. And again, if you have not subscribed or shared this show, please do, because it's in these contexts, in these episodes that I'm sharing, like with Craig, that some of the most profound transformation can occur in your life by just a simple conversation between me and guests like Craig. So stay tuned. We'll be right back to the Blissful Living Podcast in just a few moments. Alrighty, welcome back. It's Dr. Rochel Marie Lawson, the Queen of Feeling Fabulous, here with Craig Sheffy, Maltese, and we're just having this beautiful, beautiful conversation. What a perfect time of year to have it. I want to ask you this question, Craig. It's all about reclaiming joy after shame. How have you turned trauma into transformation, and how can others do the same?
That's a great question, and I will say to you that I have had issues with the word trauma my whole life, and in embracing that. At times, it makes me incredibly uncomfortable to associate myself with that. Uh, you know, uh, Given that there's so many people that have experienced far, 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 far worse than I have. So I'm very sensitive to that word. And I would say that most of the mistakes, if not all of them, or hardships, were self-created,
Mm.
were what I did with what I had. Even if someone had the exact same upbringing, they may have made different choices. Um, so, you know, shame for me, shame has been difficult because my addiction dealt with fitness and sex and perfection, and that's a really hard uh, group of things for a man to discuss. And we don't discuss sex that much in public anyway. Yet there's 80 billion people watching porn. So I guess it's just me who watches it. No one else is out there doing that. But there's a correlation between us not talking about it and Pornhub getting 135,000 views every second of the day, global. So it just lends itself to the point where we don't talk about it. And sex and especially straight men and sex is it's a weird relationship with that. There's a kind of a masculine thing, and then there's a hey, I don't talk about, the intimacy part of it. So there was a lot of shame for me in just putting that out there, and the book really put it out there. of dealing with sex workers, and of course when I was coming up in fitness industry during the 90s and early 2000s, that was the burgeoning of Craigslist and the internet as a source of um, sex and all this ancillary entertainment that did not appear before us the way it did prior to that. There's
Right.
no there's nobody walking on the streets anymore. These are college girls making $5 an hour at Starbucks that say, hey, there's a better way. And so I kind of dovetailed with that, for good or for bad, but to actually accept the shame and to to stop feeling bad about it, that's going to take a lifetime, especially when you're in a relationship and you have to balance intimacy in that relationship given your feeling, or history. So it's been difficult for me to maintain my mojo, my sexual agency, and that's an ongoing thing. And you know, one day at a time with that. I mean, I'm not struggling with the temptations anymore. Now I'm working on the awareness and how do I move on from that with those in my life that I do have an intimate relationship with.
I love it. Beautiful. You shared some words of wisdom there with regards to, the whole gym thing. I mean, I just remember reading stories about Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 70s, on Muscle Beach, which I'm very familiar with because I'm a Cali girl. But and just the nonstop orgy type of things that were going on. And then you fast forward to 2000, 2001, where what was being done kind of hidden, you can see it. You know what I mean? It was still being done. And, there were people still watching porn and going to the porn houses in San Francisco, where I'm, upward in the Bay and then down in LA and all of that, in New York, wherever. But it was different because it was undercover. And then all of a sudden you have this explosion of information and access to things, still could be kind of hidden, but it was on a more grander scope. And so thanks for sharing that vulnerability and the shame behind it, because like you said, you just got to take it one day at a time. And some days are going to be a little bit more difficult than others, and some days are going to be a lot easier than others. But it's the continued journey forward on your path to bliss that is the absolute most phenomenal, beautiful gifts that any of us can have. So I want to thank you for that. I have one more question for you now. Just real quick, within like 30 seconds, 45 seconds, what would you say to someone? Because I know we've all had our childhood traumas and things, but what would you share with someone that is looking to move past their childhood traumas to become their own beautiful person in this day and age?
Really quickly, the toughest thing for me, and I suspect for others, is letting go of the past and getting a sense of time. That things have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and there are doors that are closed that will never be opened again. So, in order to deal with that, the best thing that I could say is focus on what can I do now in my life with those experiences. The doors are closed, it's done. What can I do now with those experiences? And then going forward, what do I have now that I might not have had if I hadn't had those experiences? That's the best thing that I could say about moving forward and still acknowledging what happened in your past.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, Craig, Sheffy, Maltese, for being a guest on the Blissful Living Podcast. This has been a very beautiful, transformative conversation, very deep, very soulful, very heartfelt. And I just appreciate you being vulnerable with us and sharing, because I think in the context of vulnerability becomes great growth and information and transformation for others that, like we said, may be going through similar experiences, but are afraid to admit them to themselves, or even afraid to look at themselves in the mirror and admit that, yeah, that's me right there. So thank you so much. I want to thank all of you watching and listening, and for your grace and your time. Please check out Craig. His information will be in the show notes. Follow him, look for his TV show, get his book. All of that stuff will be in the show notes. I want to thank our sponsors, Blissful Living for You at Blissful Living, the number 4, the letter U.com, as well as All Day Cable Inc. at alldaycableinc.com. And again, please share the show, subscribe to the show, and become a part of the community. It's in the community where some of the biggest transformations occur. But sometimes they're just the smallest little things that lights that spark within you that says, yep, that's me. And it's time for me to move on as I travel down my path to bliss. I am Dr. Rochel Marie Lawson, known as the Queen of Feeling Fabulous. And until next time, I'm wishing you peace to your mind, wellness to your body, and tranquility to your spirit. Have a good day and goodbye for now.